Hello, it's me again, Nancy today. I took all those loaves of bread out of the oven. Now I'm going to show you a few things. First of all, I like to cover them with butter and then I stand them on their ends so that they can cool down on most of their sides. Now this one, I very carefully cut in half. Remember I told you don't cut it in half when it's still just out of the oven? I very carefully cut the edge and turn it over and cut all the edges and then very carefully cut the center because I wanted to make sure that it was done in the middle. Sometimes it's not done in the middle, but this looks fine. Okay, now you remember when we were kneading it for the, well, first before I say that, now I want you to notice that these are not all the same. Okay, you've got different size pans. See, I had a small pan, I had a wide flat pan, and I had two of these other size. So this one is very nice and tall. When you're making bread, if you don't measure your water and you don't measure your flour and you just guess at your yeast, you're not going to come out with a very perfect amount of dough at the end so that your bread will be so many loaves exactly. Okay, now this one would have been a taller loaf if I had put it in a smaller pan. You see, but it was in this pan. You see the difference in these two pans? So when you're making your bread, if you have a few different sizes on hand, you can make them all small, medium. See how nice that went? When you're filling up your pan with your dough, you know, if it's only going to fit halfway, it's not going to become a puffy loaf. But if it's filled up to about there, then it'll puff over, like this one. Okay, you remember when I was turning the big dough into 4 loaves, and then I was kneading them. Well, when I put the oil in the pan, in the bread bowl to begin with, I splashed in a lot of oil. Didn't mean to splash in that much. Now what happened was that the outsides of the bread got quite oiled. So when I went to try and knead it to make it into a loaf size, it wouldn't stick together. Now what I mean, it looked like it stuck together, but you see here, see these parts did not really. Well, this one also, look at that. You see, it's because of the oil that was on it, and it kept it from really blending together. So when that happened, later I put flour down and then I kneaded it on the flour. So all that extra oil picked up flour, so that made it able to stick together. So this loaf here, now see, this one did stick together. Looks a little bad on the bottom, but look here. You see how it's this part here. You see that? That's where it did not stick together. See how it completely comes apart now. When you're going to cut your loaf of bread, you're going to get it completely coming apart. You see? The whole thing will open up. So that's something that this is a mistake that you might run into if you put oil on your pan. This one seems pretty well combined in some of these places, others are not. Making bread it's a lot like raising children. You learn from the work as you go. You learn from the feel of the bread. You're going to make a million mistakes. Plan on that. Don't plan on making perfect bread and I'm not going to make bread because it's never going to come out right. If you make your own bread, look at this bag of flour. Okay, now this was a very tall bag of flour. I guess it was a 10-kilogram bag. What's that? 22-pound bag of flour. Okay, now if each loaf of bread has 1.5 pounds in it, then you have a heck of a lot of loaves of bread. 22 pounds. What's that? Oh, 15 or so. About 15 loaves of bread. Okay, and this cost me $7. So for $7 I get 15 loaves of bread. So I'm now buying bread at 50 cents a loaf. I'm only adding water and yeast. For $5 for a big box of a big 1 pound package of yeast, frozen instant dry yeast, that will last for, it will last a very long time. Depends how often you make bread, but it'll probably last you a year if you make all of your own bread. The wheat, if you buy it in the big 80-pound bags or 40 pound, 40 kilogram, that's 88 pound. If you buy it like that, you can order it hard Western wheat or red wheat or something. Anyway, if you buy it like that, that only costs much less than buying the flour. The flour, it's costing you 50 cents, but if I buy my wheat in berries, wheat berries, and then I store it. Oh wait, that's oatmeal. Sheesh. Well, whatever. You don't need to worry about that. If you buy your wheat, it's much cheaper than if you buy your flour. So these are some ways that if you're going to make your own bread and you want to invest in a wheat grinder, a grinder could cost you a lot. It could be $500. However, you can store your wheat. It doesn't go bad like flour. The bugs don't get into wheat if you put the lid on tightly. Sometimes you can put dry ice in it to store it. Anyway, so my children have grown up and gone off to their own places, their apartments or whatever they have, and they now know how to make bread. And so they might run out of money at the end of the month when they're teenagers, and they know how to make bread. So for the price of a bag of flour, they're set for quite a while for having food. This is really important. This is an age of throwaway. Buy it, how does it go? Charge it, wreck it. Buy it, charge it, wreck it. Buy another one or something. Anyway, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without is a much better slogan. And these times we're having, economic uncertainty sort of stuff. Our parents or our grandparents knew how to do this, and it's a thing that we've lost. A lot of people don't have a clue. And if they did, it would be so much easier for them to feed themselves. Can you imagine all those people who end up having macaroni at the end of the month because they don't, that's all they can afford? Anyway, Nancy today, signing out. Goodbye. I think my cat's at the door. That's why I've got to go.